All right, as promised, I'm going to give you another mock draft this weekend because I kind of botched the other one by doing it too early before the cuts and before the big news of Ian Cunningham. So we're going to do this one, and there's always a purpose behind it. A lot of you guys are criticizing me, saying that it's due. I mean, bring it on. I appreciate it. I do actually appreciate the feedback. I shouldn't say criticism. You guys want to see what it would take to do a mock draft with Trey Smith and Drew Dalman because I keep making my claims about the salary cap. So right up front here, we got everything revolving around Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen. Ryan Poles is over there building things brick by brick. Caleb's in the offseason ready to get to work. And you guys want to see what it would take to build this offensive line the right way. And I think that needs to be the priority of this offseason. So I showed to you guys what it would look like in the salary cap right now after the cuts, after Gerald Everett, after DeMarcus Walker were cut, and there could be more cuts coming. But I posted this on Twitter. Salary cap can be confusing this time of year. Future reserve contracts is usually what screws people up. The Bears fans that are curious, this is up to date. So I actually posted my spreadsheet that I shared with you guys. Now, some other content creators who are lazy or who don't understand the salary cap or who just don't care to put the work in kind of criticized a little bit and said, you just use Spotrac. I pointed out there and I showed why Spotrac isn't accurate, that they don't even have the accurate numbers. They aren't using the draft picks into the value. So this is an exact value of where the Bears stand right now if you're not being lazy and if you're going to take the proper players who are on the 53-man roster, and we're going to make the 53-man roster, and you're not taking the practice squad players. Then you allocate for the practice squad for $4 million, $250,000 per player. So this is a very accurate and acute, right down to the penny value of where the salary cap is. So when you take that into consideration, we don't have nearly as much money as people think to be able to spend on free agency, especially if you're going to go get a huge $20+ million contract and a $13 million contract on a center. And then you're going to go get a defensive end because it appears that move with DeMarcus Walker means to me, I really think the Bears are going to go big game hunting and get someone. And I'm going to use Chase Young in this example because of his experience with Dennis Allen, because of his work with Montez Sweat. And he's not going to be quite as expensive as some of the other ones like Josh Sweat. He's about the same price actually as Josh Sweat, but we're going to use Chase Young. And they have him kind of estimated around $17.5 million per year. So we're going to use that one because it's still big game hunting. But when you add those three contracts together, it actually kind of sinks into that salary cap real quick, especially when you're re-signing players. And look up here, 33 players. You have to be to 53, 20 more players to make that work, and you're signing some huge contracts. You got to make it all work. So we're going to get into these real quick. This is what I call my quickie mock drafts. In the beginning of the offseason, guys, I tried to show you more player profiles to help you learn and understand who the players were. Now we're just going to dive in. If you need to understand some of these players, go back to the old profiles. And I'm doing my draft player profiles every single day. I'm highlighting a player to profile. You can check those out as well. I'm always happy to help. But we're going to do less digging into individual players, and we're just going to go show the concept moving forward from here. So step one, we're going to re-sign our current players and cut players. These two are already cut. That's why there's the green check mark. So they are already counted in that salary cap. This $10.75 million is already back into those numbers. So those don't count into this right here. So our re-signings, the negative $12 million against the cap. So it's a positive thing. We got these guys. Negative $12 million. We got 3 exclusive right free agents. Those are league minimum contracts. We got Bill Murray, Jonathan Ford, and Daniel Hardy. That's going to help the depth of the defensive end and nose tackles. These guys may end up on the practice squad when all is said and done, but you still exercise these contracts. They are not guaranteed, just so you know. Exclusive right free agent contracts just give you the light at a league minimum contract for the younger players. So I have no reason why the Bears wouldn't offer these, wouldn't extend these to these 3 players. Scott Daly, cheap option for long snap. We're going to go there. Josh Blackwell and Jack Sanborn, restricted free agents. We're going to match whatever tender they get. These should be pretty close to where they are. Jack Sanborn, $5.5 million. Josh Blackwell, $2.5 million. And then Matt Pryor, the reason I'm taking him, because if you're going to sign 2 big ones and you're going to draft the other one, which is likely the scenario, if you're going to take Trey Smith and Drew Dalman, you got Braxton Jones, and you got Darnell Wright. Likely you're going to draft your left guard in that scenario. That's just my personal opinion where that would head. So Matt Pryor is a solid backup guard that you would want to sign. Now, you could say we're just going to keep Ryan Bates instead because he is a backup guard. I don't like running with that injury history, so I'm going to cut Ryan Bates. But what Ryan Poles may do is just keep Ryan Bates and not re-sign Matt Pryor. That's a possibility. About $1 million difference in doing that. It's cheaper to keep Ryan Bates, but Ryan Bates to me is a way heavier risk, so I don't like this option. So I'm running with this one. That would be about $1 million difference. A lot of people don't agree with me on the Noah Sewell thing, but with Swayze Bozeman re-signing Jack Sanborn, I think you need to bring fresh blood in with that last linebacker spot. And Noah Sewell had a huge, probably one of the worst regression out of anybody on the team last year. These guys coming in aren't solid, stuck with the prior people. Now, they might see something in Noah Sewell, but so far Noah Sewell has not come around. I understand the criticism on this one. I'm just saying you might want some fresh blood to bring in, and that's why I'm doing Noah Sewell being cut. It's not a huge difference maker there, too. But overall, these moves, that's not the correct amount. I appreciate you guys' patience. I changed that real quick. The bottom line was correct. I knew I had double-checked that, but the top line there looked wrong. It wasn't 12.21. It was 17.46 when you add this and this and this and this and this and this and this together. That's 17.46 minus the addition of cutting these guys. I know addition is subtraction. You're getting rid of these two contracts, 4.948 million. That number right there is those two saved values right there together. Bring it together, and what do you get? Negative 12.261237 against the salary cap for re-signings. All right, straight into free agency. Like I said, we're going big game hunting. Trey Smith, number 1, 4 years, $84 million. Some people are saying 24, 25. I don't think he's going to garner that much. Yes, the market was reset at 20.5, 21 million before. Trey Smith was not a top 10 guard last year. He was number 11 at guard last year. He's not Landon Dickerson. He's not one of those, he's not the top, but he's very consistent and he's been very good. He's going to get a big payday. Despite the blood clot injury history from college and the concerns that made him drop to the 6th round, that's why he's down there. He's still going to make about $21 million. We're going to go $21 million there. Drew Dalman, some think he's going to get 13, 14 million. He might with the salary cap going up. I'm going to say we're going to set our standard at 12 million, and we're going to be the top bidder for him. So we're going to get him for 12 million. If I'm wrong by $500,000 to $1 million, it doesn't kill it because we have some salary cap buffer at the end. So don't stress over that. Rondale Moore, I've explained in several videos. I'm stuck on him by now. His blazing speed is something I really want to see us take a gamble on, and that's not a big gamble. 2 years, $5 million, $2.5 million annual value. And then Morgan Moses, a solid backup tackle for Darnell Wright, being able to help continue to coach him with his experience, several years in the league, over a decade in the league, drafted in 2014. 2 years, $9 million contract, $4.5 million annual value. And if we get into a pinch with Braxton Jones, he can always be the swing tackle if Karan Amagaji is not ready yet. He has the experience to be able to do it. So Morgan Moses, I think, is a solid signing for us for our 4th offensive free agent. Now, going big game hunting means we cannot sign as big or as many contracts. Big, not as many. So we're going to have to build through the draft. You're going to see the concept of this one, how I made it work. So on the defensive side, we're just getting one player on the defensive free agents. We're going big game hunting on this one. Chase Young, 3-year, $51 million contract, $17 million annual value. Putting him with Dennis Allen, putting him with Montez Sweat, pairing the two up together. It could be fun to see, so we'll see what happens there. But here is the salary cap in this hypothetical situation. Here's your free agents. Trey Smith, $21 million a year. Drew Dalman, $12 million a year. Morgan Moses, $4.5. Rondale Moore, $2.5. Chase Young, $17. And I think this is why people are doing the whole concept of, restructuring some contracts like Jalen Johnson, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, is because they want to sign more people and they realize taking a couple of these big ones means you don't have a lot of room left. I'm not in favor of restructuring those contracts at this point. I'm not in favor of putting us into cap hell down the road. Now, it wouldn't put us in cap hell this year, but as we continue to do that, if we're not in the Super Bowl window yet, it will hurt us long term. So these free agent signings all add up to be $57 million. The hypothetical re-signings is $12,261,000 as we showed. Take these two numbers from that number and you got $6 million left for remaining cap after free agency, allocating already for the draft pool and for practice squad. So the draft pool will help here, and then we have just a little bit left to sign league minimum contracts after the draft on players to fill the rest of the roster. Well, here's our needs afterwards. We still need a starting left guard. We need a wide receiver 3, a running back 2 or 1, a nose tackle, a tight end 2, backups. We need a left guard, a center. So you still need help here on multiple spots here. Matt Pryor can shift over and help if need be. Tight end 3 because we cut Gerald Everett, cornerback, and linebacker. Because in this scenario, we did not re-sign Jalen Jones, who I like a lot, but I think we could be targeting one secondary guy in the draft because of the needs we have at safety coming up, corner coming up. There's a lot of needs. It's always nice to bring fresh blood in there too. There's our 8 draft picks without Ian Cunningham, which is a done deal now. He is staying with the Bears. Those 8 picks would fill most of these holes, and then we can, sign some league minimum contracts to help fill the rest of the roster out. But I don't love that. So I'm going back to Ryan Poles' first year here. We've solidified our starters here. We got Drew Dalman and Trey Smith. That's a huge boost. Getting Chase Young is a huge boost. Getting 1-2 solid backups, huge boost. Now we can take some of these late round picks as flyers to develop players. And I want to grab a couple more good picks. So I'm going to go with the old adage. I said I wouldn't do it as much, but I really think if this is the approach we go, Ryan Poles needs to trade down and garner just a little bit more value. So only going to do this if a team is willing to overpay. And at first, I only did what was offered to me. I used a mock draft database, and I only did what was offered to me. And this first one, I thought, well, that's way too many picks. Is that really close in value? But that's actually a decent value there. Pretty close. 486 compared to 369 from trading from 10 to 13. But most of these are late round picks. But the Dolphins, if they really want to entice us, if they want to come up, say there's offensive line help that they're really in love with and no offensive linemen's come off the board and they want the first one. Say they want Will Campbell. Say that's what they want. They want to come up. They're going to make it enticing for us. First, second, fourth, and 2 seventh, which are basically worth nothing. But for us to develop players, I love this concept of getting those. And then we're going to trade down again. We're going to do double trade down, closer value this time. We're going to give that 1/15th up that we got with 13, and we're going to get in return 22, 55, and 86, first, second, third. It's a good value on it. We're still getting more value than we're giving up, but it gives us more quality draft picks. So is this likely to happen? I'm going to be realistic and say, no, it's not likely. But every year, one team does come out of the draft like this, where you're like, how did they pull that off? And if Ryan Poles can pull this off, if he can pull this off, he's going to be having people talking about how he deserves this job for sure moving forward. So this is what we're rolling with into the draft. And here's our draft picks. That's why I say it's a quickie mock draft. I'm not rolling through every player. I'm just going to give you the quick and condensed how it went. And this is actually on my simulator what happened. So I know realistically a lot of these things would not happen. A lot of people might say, oh, Luke Lackey's not going 252. He might not. He might. He had a really poor season, but he was a really high prospect before this year. Jake Majors is not going 6'197. Maybe not. Jackson Woodard, he's gotten too much attention now. He's not going 235. Maybe not. But we don't know. And in this simulator, I used the simulator. I did what the simulator got to me. And I took pieces that I thought would fill in this scenario very well. So down to 22, Booker was there. We took Tyler Booker. 239. I don't think Nick Emenwari will be there. If he's there, I'm stealing him. He is an every position, versatile player on the defense, and I would absolutely snag him up if he's there at 239. O'Marion Hampton at 241, I'm snagging him up. In this scenario, Caleb Johnson and Travion Henderson went before him. So I'm still taking O'Marion Hampton if he's there. I would take Travion Henderson. I would take Caleb Johnson if either of them were there. I do think there will be a run on running backs in the early second round, end of first round. So this is a good spot for us to snag one. 248. I know some of you aren't in love with Landon Jackson, but he's the perfect size for Dennis Allen's defense, and he's got a relentless motor where he never stops. He's going to impress coaches. He will get rotation and reps, and he will be developing behind Montez Sweat and Chase Young. That is a great opportunity for him. So Landon Jackson there, and then at 255 with the extra picks we picked up, Elijah Arroyo out of Miami. I highlighted him the other day. I understand the injury history. There's just way too much upside with his route running, with his elite speed, with the way he is able to block and put himself in on every play. I like him a lot. TJ Sanders will help come in and compete with Gervon Dexter. Solid 3-tech option. Any other draft, third round is way too far down for him. He would be drafted around the same time that Gervon Dexter would in the second round in a normal draft. This deep defensive line draft, TJ Sanders is a steal in the third round. So we're taking him there. Same with Wyatt Millum. I don't see him dropping this far. But again, I'm telling you guys, I'm taking what the simulator gave to me. So we took Wyatt Millum. Holland Pierce is one I've highlighted a few times. Absolute monster who we could develop. Offensive tackle. Jake Majors, solid center option. Thor Griffith come in with Andrew Billings. And I think he could take a ton of reps away from Andrew Billings. But they complement each other very well on different pass plays or pass reps or run defense. They can complement each other well. Jackson Woodard. If you guys haven't seen the tape on Jackson Woodard, you need to go watch the tape on Jackson Woodard. I'll highlight him here coming up. Jackson Woodard is one of the few that consistently and violently shut down Ashton Jeanty. Showed me reasons why Ashton Jeanty can be shut down by linebackers in the NFL when he doesn't have giant holes to go through. This isn't the Ashton Jeanty hate show, I promise you. But Jackson Woodard was a big reason why I saw that could happen. He hits and he pops hard at linebacker, and he was one of the biggest ones that came up against Ashton Jeanty and won consistently. Efton Chisholm really came out big at the Shrine Bowl. Huge player out there from Eastern Washington. Did very well. Will it raise his draft stock even higher? He was an undrafted free agent prospect before. Now many have him going in the 6th, 5th, 4th round. But we hear that buzz every year. There's always these guys that rise up. And then does it really happen when it comes draft time? We'll have to wait and see. But in this scenario, he was here. And then Luke Lackey as well. Terrible season for him at Iowa. Well, I shouldn't say terrible. Not good at all. Bad? Yeah, terrible fits. It's fine. Especially coming off last year where he was so highly regarded. Thought he would be a very high tight end prospect and just didn't have it come together. We've already taken Elijah Arroyo. We know we got rid of Gerald Everett. So now we have Elijah Arroyo and Luke Lackey. We can develop them both behind Cole Kmet. See what we can do out of that. So here it is to check it out. Just so you guys can see, this is the screenshot from it. This is the actual draft that I pulled off on there. Tyler Booker, Nick Emanwari, Omarion Hampton, Landon Jackson. Here's the trades that associated with them. Here's where we picked up the 48th from trading down to 13. Picked up the 55th from trading down from there and giving back that 4th rounder we picked up, blah, blah, blah. So you can see it all here. These are the ones that I just rolled through. And down here, I understand it gets less realistic in the 4th round as there are high prospect profiles there. Draft prospects in the late rounds. Who's going to... But it always happens every year. Some team gets a steal. Some team gets a Puka Nakua. And maybe some of these guys will work out. These 6th, 7th rounders, they really are just, opportunities, as they call them. Opportunities to be able to have a shot at developing these guys. But I like the idea of developing all these guys. All these guys could be good potential players for us. And if we're taking high-value free agents, develop these guys in the wings, and I like the value of that. This is the hypothetical scenario, exactly where the salary cap would stand with each and every one of these players. And each pick, even though we traded down in multiple positions, is the exact spot, that pick, where they would land. So for Efton Chisholm here in the 7th round, that's where that pick would stand. Omarion Hampton and their exact value. So as we go down through here, you can see top 2 there count. 1, 2. They're going to be on the 53-man roster. And obviously the 53-man roster can be flexible and you can switch from place to place. You got the 4 running backs. You got the 5 receivers. Could end up, re-signing Colin Johnson or, bringing somebody else in as well. But those are the 5 there. Brings us to 11. 3 tight ends, Cole Kmet with Elijah Arroyo and Luke Lackey. 12, 13, 14. Come on down here to our offensive line. Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, Drew Dalman, Tyler Booker, Trey Smith, and then the backups, Jake Majors, Matt Pryor, Trent Brown, Wyatt Milam, Karan Amagaji, Holland Pierce, and then Bill Murray would then go to the practice squad to continue to develop, which is a realistic take of where that would be, 15 through 25 there. Let's keep all the right ones allocated. Then we scroll down to the defensive line. You get your defensive ends here. You got Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Landon Jackson, Austin Booker, and Daniel Hardy. Really more of a special teams player. And then on the defensive tackles, Gervon Dexter and TJ Sanders, really most of your 3 techs there. And then for your big guys, you got Andrew Billings, Thor Griffith. I think Thor Griffith would get plenty of reps there. I think he's such high upside. And then Jonathan Ford who may not be dressing most weeks, who might be going to the practice squad, depending on how it all worked out. So there's 26 or 35. And you got the linebackers here: Tremaine Edmonds, T.J. Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Jackson Woodard, Swayze Bozeman, 26 or 40. And these are all correct values for those draft picks where they were each selected. Remember, we traded down and extracted so much value out of these late round picks to develop players. That's what we're doing here. We have high upside starters in this scenario, and then we've got a lot of players to develop in the later rounds. Again, and not always do those work out, but we're hitting some taking our shots. Nick Amenwari, you'll see here I have every there because he can literally play every position in the secondary, including linebacker. He can step up and play linebacker if he had to. He's such a unique freaking talent. I freaking love the idea of taking him. That's why I'm willing to take him. If he falls to the second round, I would absolutely take Nick Amenwari. He's a first-round talent easily. But you got your cornerbacks, nickelback, cornerback. And then Elijah Hicks could then play safety/cornerback. Nick Amenwari could obviously switch over too, but he would be your starting strong safety ahead. I know a lot of people might not understand that one. Ahead of Jaquan Brisker, but with those injuries, concussions, Kevin Byard would still start free safety. And then you'd have Jonathan Owens still, and Josh Blackwell as a backup nickel. Elijah Hicks could shoot over to slot or to safety as well. Strong safety, free safety. He could play many of the spots. Then you got Cairo Santos, Torrey Taylor, and Scott Daly there for 51, 52, 53. So there's where your top 51. That's actually the entire 53 there for the salary cap. Anticipated cap there, adjusted with rollover. Here's your dead cap that we came into now. Practice squad players added in, and there's where your actual cap stands. And that's actually really, really close to what Ryan Poles ended up with this last year, having some rollover. So, if the cap is on the higher end, $281, this would be about $8 million. If it's on the lower end, this would be about $4 million. So it's actually really right in line with where this should be and what the Bears would end up doing. So, I think we kind of nailed this one. And a lot of high upside, a lot of big potential players there. Obviously, the blue, I didn't explain that. The blue is players we're re-signing, bringing back. The green is the draft picks. Yellow means they would be not needed on the 53-man roster. They'd be going to the practice squad. And then blue re-signed. Orange would be the major or any free agents in the open market. So that's what all those colors represent, and that's why Bill Murray turned to yellow there. And basic breakdown of salary cap on the good old spreadsheet, on the good old Excel. And last but not least, this is how it would look on our good old depth chart. Remember, this is re-signings are in the gray, so this would be Matt Pryor here, Bill Murray. The orange ones would be our draft picks, and I like having a little bit of mix there of guys that can come in and develop. Holland Pierce down here, who could end up here or here or here or here or here. And then you got Tyler Booker as a starter, Wyatt Milam, who in my opinion could be a starter, who could end up being the starter next year at left tackle. There's just a lot of variety of developing guys here. Well, oops, I caught myself with another oopsie there. If you saw the screen just change, it's because I had the names wrong on the side. I hadn't double edited it. Took a second there, hurry and did it, and we're going to clean this thing back up. So, oops, I did it again, but now it's right. Braxton Jones, Tyler Booker, Drew Dalman, Trey Smith, Darnell Wright. That is actually that's a sexy lineup right there. I like it. If Tyler Booker isn't working out, if he's taking time to adjust, you can always throw in Matt Pryor there. If Wyatt Milam is progressing faster than expected, you could always throw him in there. You got guys waiting in the wing. This is the nice thing about it. And then you don't have too many contracts of all these good potential players and these elite starters here. You've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 that are on the last year of their contract. This offensive line is getting to a place where we have solid starters and developing players behind them. I like this a lot. Thank you guys for making me do this. I'm starting to come around. Coming around to Trey Smith. If we do this, if we don't restructure contracts, if we don't go crazy, if we develop a couple more picks in this draft, if we pull something off like this, I'm very excited. All right. Quarterback and running back, so Marion Hampton is the big change there, and I'm very excited about that change. Him and DeAndre Swift would be a great 1-2 punch there. At the wide receivers, tight ends, you got Rondell Moore coming in with his speed. You got Efton Chisholm the third. And then you got two new Tight ends. You got Elijah Arroyo and Luke Lackey. We'll see what they can do. On the defensive line, you're overhauling this thing as well. Not many changes on the starters. You guys know I don't love Andrew Billings as a starter here, but I'm okay rolling with this for 1 year with the improvements. I think Chase Young and this front here could be fine as you have these guys developing behind them as well. Austin Booker continuing to develop. I'm okay with this defensive front. I'd like a little upgrade here at nose tackle, but we had other priorities we needed to take. You can say I shouldn't have taken Nick Amanwari, and I could have taken Deion Walker. I could have taken Tyleik Williams. That might be true, and maybe I should have changed that, but I like where it went with Nick Amanwari. I really like him as a prospect. Linebackers, nickelbacks, you got Jack Sanborn back. You got Jackson Woodard. You got Swayze Bozeman. Am I the only one that keeps continuing to want to say Patrick Swayze just because of Swayze? As I do these things, it's like the first thing that comes to my head is I want to say Patrick Swayze. Swayze Bozeman. Josh Blackwell is re-signed as well. And then on the defensive backs, you've got your guy who can play anywhere, Nick Amanwari, and he's going to take over for Jaquan Brisker. I know we like Jaquan Brisker, guys. Everyone likes Jaquan Brisker. But if we're being real with ourselves, he wasn't playing more than he's been an average starter at best when he wasn't injured, and now he's had all these concussions, and now he's just kind of weird on Twitter, and he's always saying something. I'm all down with continuing to see where he can develop, but he's in the last year of his contract. Nick Amanwari takes over as a starter for him, and we see what happens here. Terrell Smith, I continue to put him as my starter because with Dennis Allen's defense playing more man than zone, I think he has the edge over Tyreek Stevenson, but I'm all in favor of this new coaching staff, especially the defensive backs coaches coming in and helping Tyreek Stevenson to take that next step. 2 more years on his rookie deal, as well as Terrell Smith, drafted in the same draft. So I'm all in favor of that. I'm not trying to bash on Tyreek Stevenson. It's just the fact that Terrell Smith plays better man coverage hip to hip than does Tyreek Stevenson. That was supposed to be a quickie. That didn't end up being a quickie, but it is building brick by brick, and it is building with some significant free agent signees and then a ton of draft picks to develop behind them. So I wish all my quickies were like this. I wish they all lasted a half hour when they were supposed to be a quickie. But nonetheless, here we are, and I feel like this is a really productive, good one. This might be the best one. And I wasn't sold on the whole Trey Smith concept, but guys, you've got me to do it. We are going to do the group. We're going to do the live fan-voted mock draft. We're going to do that one with you guys on Tuesday. You guys asked for that on Friday. We're going to do that Tuesday, but I don't know if we can top this one. Let me know what you guys think, though. This a new fan favorite? I'm all in favor with that. The Bears, and bear down.